What's going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today, and today we got the Bears. Well, it's not even open. We got the Bears hat. You can see it signed. We were at the game yesterday. I'll go over some of the signatures. But we're going to do this usually following the game on game day. But yesterday I actually went to the game, so that's why we're doing it a day late. Same with the Arsenal video that's going to come out later today. But we do have a lot of signatures on here that we can talk about. First person gave me a signature yesterday. If you can see right there, that's Lucas Patrick, number 62, offensive lineman, our starting offensive lineman. He's going to have hopefully a healthy season this season. But very excited. He went through almost everybody, gave them all signatures. Next, we got, right as you can see, number 86 up here. That's Dante Pettis. He's going to be fighting to make the roster here this season. Hopefully he can end up making it, but Dante Pettis stopped by, very nice guy, very, very fun to interact with him. And then, I don't know if you can see this one. Trust me, it's there. I'm going to see if I can put a flashlight on it so you can see a little bit better. You can barely see it because it's in black. But right there, or right where my finger is, you can barely see the Sharpie. That's Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds did stop by, did sign it. Unfortunately, it is a little dark in the area that he signed, but I can still see it. I'm still happy with it. And then we'll get to the bottom of the hat. Actually, we'll still talk about this one right here. Adrian Colbert. He had a solid game yesterday. I believe he forced a fumble. He was very cool. Once again, he was another one. And then we got two guys right here that we'll talk about later. This guy right here, I don't know if any of you can make out the signature. I can't. And there's no number with it. I thought at first it was a D, and it doesn't see, I looked through the autographs of the people that start with the D. I can't find anybody that has that. I thought maybe the second letter was an F. Couldn't find anybody like that. I was looking at like the Isaiah Fords, and then maybe it's an H, like Gabriel Hoy. I'm not sure. So if any of you can help me identify who that is, let me know. Because I'm gonna be honest, it was going by so fast. I don't even think I clocked half the people that I was making sure I'm saying thank you, and then somebody else comes up and they go for the hat, and I'm sitting there like it's just constant. It's just constant. I'm trying to keep names all together at once. But right here, number 9, you can see right there, Jaquan Brisker. He did stop by. Number 46. Don't know if you can see it right there. He stopped by. I believe that's Jared Pinky, a tight end that's fighting for a roster spot. And then right here, we got DeMarcus Walker. He did not play. He was in street clothes when he signed, but DeMarcus Walker said he's going to get all the sacks this season. So watch out because he is on a mission. Hopefully he does get a very solid season with the sacks total. He's gonna do his best out there this season. And then this is the part where I'm going to need to consult the roster list to tell you guys who number 67 is, I believe it is. 67 is the guy that signed. I know it wasn't Bravion Roy. But it was a really big, tall guy, and it's Roy Mbeteka. Not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, but shout out to him. Very big guy, signed. Very thankful for everybody that did stop and sign. And like I said, if any of you have any idea who that one signature is, let me know, because that's definitely something that I would be interested in finding out. But big shout out to everybody that signed. Hopefully all have big seasons. I'm very excited. I was very, very happy that Tremaine Edmonds stopped by and signed. I know you guys might not be able to see it, but I'm very happy that it's on this hat. This is definitely going to be put up in a safe spot and put on display next to my Io DeSumo signed jersey, next to my DeMar signed jersey. It's going to be up there with all my memorabilia that I end up collecting. But Jaquan Brisker, really happy about that. I think he's going to have a great season. DeMarcus Walker, very happy when we got him. And I think we're going to have a good season, definitely. But thank you to everybody that stopped by, that signed, because you don't need to do that. It's just something that players like giving back to the fans. So definitely big shout out to everybody that did sign, because it is well appreciated. I'm sure I'm not the only one that appreciates it. There's a bunch of kids around getting stuff signed. There were some parents in there trying to get a football signed. I mean, I'm sure everybody is appreciative of it. But once again, I want to say thank you. I believe I said thank you to everybody yesterday that they did sign, but if I didn't, thank you once again, or thank you for the first time if I did miss you. Say thank you. But let's talk about how the Bears did. Why don't we do that? So we won 23-17. Let me pull up the stats here on my phone real quick. But I thought we did pretty well. Obviously, the game started off hot. Justin Fields, 2 touchdowns right away. Quick hitter to DJ Moore, 63-yard rush off a screen. And DJ Moore was gone to the house, showed off his speed, and immediately sat out. It's all we needed to see. We needed to see one big play from DJ Moore, and I think we got our share of things. I think we got our little teaser for what's going to be hopefully very common this season with DJ Moore, but very excited to see him go. Fields, he threw 3 passes, 129, 2 touchdowns, threw another screen. He didn't throw a screen, but he did a check down route off a scramble that he dumped off to Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert took it 56 yards. So both of them had 2 big touchdowns after the catch. And then we get into almost everybody else. But Fields, Moore, Herbert, all 3 of those guys looked great. Let's start with the quarterbacks, backup QBs. PJ Walker, I believe he was the first one in, and he was a little bit shaky. He is the backup with the most experience, but a little bit shaky of a performance. Hopefully, the next 2 preseason games, he can figure it out, find his way. Looking a little bit more comfortable in the system. Very shaky. Threw a ball to EQ, Kwame St. Brown, that was nowhere near him. That was probably the worst pass on both sides all day. But PJ Walker, somebody I think can figure it out. He can figure it out. And once again, it's preseason. We didn't get to see him scramble or anything like that. Something I know he can do. But I would like to see maybe a little bit more out of him, and a little bit less shaky of a performance. Then we got Nathan Peterman. Gave you a pretty good Nathan Peterman style game. I expect he probably will be on the team as the third QB. Regardless of who else is on there, I do think he's probably just gonna slot in as that third QB. I could even see him if Fields goes down, God forbid, and knock on wood. I could see a situation where Peterman might start a game. I mean, has the experience a little bit. He's has the potential to be bad, but he can also be okay. But this was one of those days where he's pretty solid. 4 for 6, 58 yards, got sacked once, but I thought he did fairly well for when he was in there. But the guy that really surprised me was Tyson Bagent. I thought he did phenomenal. 4 for 5, 37 yards, got sacked once, but I thought he was really doing well. He made some big passes when needed. Really liked what I saw out of him. And I think I know he's probably the least likely of the backup QBs to actually make the roster, and he'll probably get practice squatted. But I'm actually rooting for this guy. I think he could potentially be QB2 on this team. From the performances I saw yesterday, I really prefer what I saw out of Tyson Bagent more than I do Peterman and Walker. Nothing against Peterman and Walker, but I think Bagent really was the star of the show there. I know that technically yards wise Peterman did better, but I really enjoyed watching Tyson Bagent play the quarterback position. I really did like him. And then we get to the running backs, or anybody that ran the ball, because Tyson Bagent did get sacked for 2. We'll start off with Khalil. About 4 yards a carry. Finished the day with 15 yards off 4 carries, so for 3.8, but almost 4. Khalil Herbert did what Khalil Herbert does. With increased carries comes increased numbers for that. It's preseason. You don't expect him to go for big numbers or anything crazy. But Khalil Herbert did great. He did great for I mean, he showed off some pass catching ability, some yards after catch ability there. Still averaged around that 4 yards per carry mark. So liked what I saw out of Herbert. Then we got to Deontay Foreman. He averaged 3 yards a carry off 3 carries for 9 yards. Same thing with Ebner. Foreman didn't nearly get as much time I was hoping, but obviously he had a good year last year. I think he'll be fine. Obviously you're not going to run him into the ground in preseason. So I mean, yeah, I would like to see him maybe get a couple more carries, but it's preseason. It's not necessary. Ebner, I'm surprised he didn't get more time than what he did. He could be a guy that's looking in that bubble spot for running backs, and I wouldn't be shocked if he is on that bubble. Travis Homer, another guy that I think could end up being on that roster bubble spot, but he had a pretty good game. 6 carries, 25 yards, 4 yards per carry, highest yards per carry out of any of our players. Travis Homer, I think, had a pretty solid game. And I believe he also can catch, which is going to be an improvement for us because we at times have struggled to get running backs that can catch. And then you got Roshan. Roshan had a great game. He 12 carries, 44 yards, about 3.7 a carry. Had a 24-yard rush. He looked strong. He looked ready to be in the NFL. He did get blown up in the backfield a few times, but for the most part, I liked what I saw out of Roshan. I don't know if he got 3 catches for a total of 2 yards, but Roshan, I did enjoy what I saw out of him. Very excited for what he could do this season. Saw a little bit of flashes out of him. Receiving wise, we kind of already talked about DJ Moore, Khalil Herbert. Isaiah Ford, somebody that had a big catch in the game, 37-yard catch. Then you also got Darius Fountain, another guy that had a 25-yard catch, and Simba Webster with a 15-yard catch. Is this Joe Reed? Yeah, Joe Reed. I didn't realize we got Joe Reed, to be honest with you. But Joe Reed, 2 for 14. He was there. Another solid numbers. Kari Blasingame, very happy with a 11-yard catch off him. We'll skip those two for now. Steven Carlson, he had a 4-yard catch. Probably a guy looking on the bubble there for that roster. Don't even know if he's really on the bubble. Not really too sure if he'll make the roster. Pinky, shout out to him, signed for us. But once again, 2 yards there. Probably a roster guy that is, if he's going to be on the roster, he's still fighting for that spot. And then obviously Roshan there with 3 receptions. But the 2 I skipped, Tyler Scott, Bayless Jones, both had fumbling problems. Tyler Scott's, I believe, was on his reception. He had a 9-yard reception. I did like what I saw to him kick returning wise, but I'm starting to get scared with the way we're drafting receivers. Because Tyler Scott fumbled. He's had apparently in camp. He's had flashes of brilliance, and he's had flashes where he's fumbling and can't have ball security. I'm not willing to make a judgment on Tyler Scott just yet. I'm going to give him a chance, going to give him a season or 2 before I make a judgment on him. Just like I'm doing with Bayless Jones. Bayless Jones, somebody that I think a lot of Bears fans have given up on. He's a guy that, believe it or not, yes, we drafted him 3rd round last year, but believe it or not, he's one of the guys that everybody's talking about being on the bubble on the roster spot. I'm hoping he's on the roster because he does have explosive plays in him. But he's somebody that if he can't get that ball control figured out, if he can't figure out how to not muff punts and actually get under the punts in time, then he might be looking at getting cut. And I really don't want to see that for Bayless Jones. He's, what is he, 26 now? He should be about 26, 27 even, because he was an old rookie. Yeah, he's 26 in his 2nd year in the NFL. If he's going to figure it out, he's got to figure it out quickly. And I really hope he does because he's the kind of player that I really like. I like when we have the Tariq Cohen types of players that just speedsters and kick returners. Obviously, I grew up watching Devin Hester. If you are a good kick returner and you can make flashy, big returns, I'm more than likely going to fall in love with your game. And Bayless Jones has, at times, done that for the Bears. He just can't consistently catch the football. And I really hope he can get that solved out. I really don't want him to be cut before the season. I want to see him have another season in him. But with a performance like yesterday where you're muffing punts and your main role on the team, where you're number one, is special teams. If you can't do that, they might have to cut you. And I don't want to see that for him. I really don't. Kicking wise, we did great. Cairo Santos did not miss a single kick. Kicked it 5 times, 3 field goals, 2 extra points. Did his thing. Cairo's in for a good season. We kind of talked about the kick returning with Tyler Scott. Punt returning, obviously Velus Jones fumbled. Tyler Scott had a 9-yard punt return. And then Simba Webster. And Simba Webster is somebody that I think we traded for him. It felt weird trading for a special teams guy. But I'm not necessarily opposed to him being on punt returns. I'm not. Because it seems as if when the problem happens for Velus Jones is on punts. When people are running at him, it's less yards between him and where the ball's being kicked. Because kickoffs, they have time. You can watch the ball into your chest. Punt return, sometimes you got to run to the ball. Sometimes people are already barreling down on you by the time it is. I think somebody like Nsimba Webster could be the guy there at punt returns. I would move Velus to kick returns, but I think Nsimba Webster, his patience, and I think he really understands how to field a punt, especially in the NFL. So I wouldn't be opposed to him being our starting punt returner and moving Velus Jones to sporadic receiver time there in the slot, more than likely, or even on the outside, running deep routes and trying to beat people with speed, because he is a fast guy. But I think definitely if you're looking at Velus Jones, his value would be on the kick return side of things rather than the punt return side of things, because a lot of his issues come with the punt return. And I'm not saying that I don't want to see him on punt returns, because I do think he has the potential to make explosive plays, but if he's going to be having these mistakes, you can't leave that on when this year, realistically, you should be fighting for a playoff spot. You just can't. Trenton Gill, he did great. Good for him. He averaged 50 yesterday. 4 punts, 200 yards, did his thing. Let's go to the defense. A lot of the standouts on the defense. One guy I was very happy to see do his thing was Tyreek Stevenson, man. He was everywhere. He played the whole first half. He was tackling everybody. And it's going to be good. He's going to be good. I really do feel like he has something in him. I didn't see him miss a single tackle. Maybe he did, but I don't recall him missing any single tackle. He isn't a swing and miss tackler as a corner, and he was patient. He got into his tackle. He wrapped up. He wasn't diving. He made sure he was in good position for his tackles. He almost had a pick that could have even been for 6. Because I don't know if anybody was catching him. He just happened to time it a little bit off. He played very good coverage for the majority of that game. I think he got beat maybe once or twice. But Tyreek Stevenson really stood out to me watching that defense in that first half. He really was somebody that I was like, first off, I couldn't believe he was playing the full first half. And I was like, wow, this kid's special. He can legitimately be our second corner there behind Jalen Johnson. I obviously know you're moving Kyler Gordon to a little bit different of a role than what I guess maybe you drafted him for. You maybe thought maybe he could go into your CB2, but you're probably going to run him more so against slot receivers and stuff like that. With in that nickel corner type of role for Kyler Gordon, which he looked great in yesterday, by the way. But I think for Tyreek Stevenson, he really stood out. I could see him even eventually being our number one corner. Him and Jalen Johnson could be a very good duo. And obviously the problem with Jalen Johnson's always been his health. I know he missed a few games. Tyreek Stevenson could really stand out and really solidify himself as the corner of this team. I was very happy to see what he did yesterday. Another guy that I was very happy to see, we got some roster fighters, I guess you can call them. They're fighting for that last roster spot, and there are a bunch of edge rushers doing it. Trevis Gibson being one. He got a sack. Very happy to see him do his thing. He was an absolute freak yesterday, everywhere on that field, creating havoc for the backfield, rushing the quarterback left and right, creating headaches. Travis Gibson really stood out yesterday, and he played like he was fighting for a roster spot. And I know people had him as one of the roster bubble guys. It's going to be hard at the end of camp and at the end of preseason to look at if Travis can keep this up for 2 more games, or even if he's doing even half of what he did yesterday. It's going to be hard to look at him at the end of camp and cut him. And I think that says the same for a few other guys there on that team on the defense, because they were working their tails off yesterday, really getting into it. A guy that I really hope does make the team, but he's probably primed more so for the practice squad. I do like him, though. I was very impressed with him. You got to see him a little bit, obviously, when he was playing at LSU. That is Micah Baskerville. He had a very solid time. He had a sack. Another very good player there in the linebacking core this time, though. Somebody that I really did enjoy watching yesterday. Somebody that I knew in that linebacking core, and I've talked to the guy before, is Noah Sewell. He got a sack as well. He had yet another good game. He did it a lot in college, and he followed it up and doing it in the NFL now. I know that there's been some, I guess, hype around him. The staff's very high on him. Jack Sanborn, obviously being down, has led to Noah Sewell being able to step up into that first team role in practice. And it really showed yesterday. It really showed. He did his thing, played very well. And I think we could have a legitimate competition there for who's going to be that Sam linebacker between him and Jack Sanborn. I think both are good options. It's just a matter of who's going to win it out. I wouldn't be surprised if they split time there this season, but both looked very well. I mean, Noah looked very solid. Jack Sanborn obviously missed some time, so he'll be good when he comes back. Jack Sanborn last year did really good, but it'll just be interesting to see which one ends up being the starter there. But you have a very solid backup there, regardless of which one you have as your backup. But Noah Sewell, I think, is fairly safe on this team. Then you got Macon Clark. Not gonna lie, didn't really stand out much to me. He was like tied for second in team in tackles. But I didn't really take much notice of him. But shout out to him. He did do his thing. Got 3 tackles, tied for second. Somebody that did stand out to me, though, Zach Pickens. I thought it was going to be Jervon Dexter a little bit more than it would be Zach Pickens. But yesterday, I think Zach Pickens really stepped up. He did his thing. He went out there, got a sack, created some pressure, got 2 tackles, recovered a fumble. Zach Pickens looked really, really good. And I thought Jervon Dexter was. I know that I believe he's not been necessarily as great as they had hoped in camp, but I did still think Jervon Dexter would probably more than likely be the guy behind Billings to start the season. But I think Zach Pickens really stepped up, and he's making a case. I think regardless of if it's Jervon Dexter, if it's Travis Bell, or Zach Pickens, all 3 of them I think were fairly solid yesterday. I think regardless of who ends up being the favorite from the coaching staff point of view out of that group of 3 that they drafted, I do think ultimately they still will be behind Andrew Billings this season. I do think Andrew Billings will probably start their defensive tackle at least at the beginning of the year. But I do like the depth now at defensive tackle, something we haven't had in past. And Zach Pickens looked very solid. Another guy that stood out here, Braylon Trahan. Kind of hard to miss what he did yesterday. Got an interception. He did fairly solid. He's a guy that's going to be fighting for a roster spot, but he did very solid for himself. A guy that, once again, he's in the same boat, same category as Travis Gibson. Tyrell Lewis. Tyrell Lewis. Yeah, that's his name. I believe he played for the Rams. But this kid, man, he had 2 sacks. He did his thing. He went out there. He created pressure. He forced a fumble. He got to Will Levis. He did his thing. You couldn't be upset about what Tyrell Lewis did. You can't. You couldn't be upset with what he did. And granted, I got his name wrong, but I think him and Travis Gibson both they're going to be battling out for a spot that it's going to be really hard for this coaching staff to determine. If both of them still, if the against the Colts and then against I don't remember who they play. I think the Bills in the final game of the preseason. If both of them do what they did today or yesterday again in the preseason, I don't want to be the one making that decision because that is a bad phone call to have to make. Is hey Terrell, I know you've been a beast for us in the preseason, but ultimately we decided we couldn't fit you on the roster. Same thing with Travis Gibson. If you're a beast in the preseason, it's hard. It's hard. They're making it hard for this coaching staff. I don't envy the position of the coaching staff. Maybe both of them make it. Maybe they keep an extra defensive end that we're not maybe expecting. Maybe they cut their losses at a different position. But they're making it difficult. They're making it real difficult. Terrell Lewis and Travis Gibson, both of them really solid yesterday. Both standouts. Both created a lot of pressure. Both really looked the part yesterday. Adrian Colbert, once again, shout out to him. I believe he fumbled. He recovered a fumble and he forced one, so he had a really good game. He's somebody that's going to get time. He's going to get time. He's a veteran. Adrian Colbert will find time on our team. Not necessarily sure where it will be, but he's 29 years old. He'll find time at some point. I don't know if he will start at any point. It'll probably depend on the trio there of corners you got. I mean, Jalen Johnson, if he goes down with injury again, I'm sure Adrian Colbert would be somebody that you'd look towards to step up. Obviously, you could have him play the Kyler Gordon role a little bit. Adrian Colbert will probably play some special teams. But I think he's kind of a guy that you can use to plug and play, kind of. I think you might be able to even run him a little bit at safety if needed. But Adrian Colbert is somebody I think that, I mean, with his veteran experience, you can move around a little bit. Have a little bit more flexibility to things, and if an injury happens here or there, he won't be a bad option to play and replace them for the time being. But very solid performance out of Adrian Colbert. I think he's fairly safe. I'm excited to have him on the team. Greg Stroman, I believe, is his name. Yeah, it is Greg Stroman. I was waiting for me to click on it. It'd be like George. Still getting used to all the new Bears names, so if I get some wrong, forgive me. I got to click on them, but I'm kind of saying their names and then clicking on them because I want to test my own ability, and I'm not doing too hot, as you could tell from the Terrell Lewis situation. But Stroman, he did a solid. He got 2 tackles. He's a guy that's going to be fighting for a roster spot, but did solid. Michael Ojemudia, somebody I really liked coming out of college. Didn't necessarily have the longevity. I believe he was on the Broncos. I believe the Broncos were the ones that drafted him. But he didn't have the longevity there. We picked him up last year. And he's kind of just been a backup, and he probably will still be around that backup type of player for us. But he's somebody that I think I wouldn't be surprised if he were to be cut. If you really want both Travis and Terrell Lewis being there, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody that is like a Michael Ojemudia gets cut at a different area of the team. But I think he's safe. I think Michael Ojemudia is safe. But I wouldn't be surprised if he unfortunately was one of the guys that got the short end of the stick, because they have a lot of players on this team that I think deserve to be on a 53-man. At least this season, they stood out yesterday. And Ojemudia is a guy I really like, so I do hope he ends up making the 53-man. But if not, hopefully he can stay on our practice squad and we can still keep him around the Chicago Bears because I do like him. Buddy Johnson, another guy. He played a lot yesterday. It felt like I feel like I kept looking in there and seeing number 50. Can't really tell you anything that stood out to me besides that every time I saw number 50 in at linebacker, I thought it was very odd for some reason. I just looked at him because half the time I'm sitting right near the Bears tunnel, so half the time his back is faced towards me, and I just see 50. I'm like, I don't know why, but I just don't like that number. I don't know why. He just looks weird on that. I don't know why. I'm just looking at linebackers. I'm like, I know a lot of linebackers wear 50, but it just looked off to me for some reason. But Buddy Johnson, nothing particularly stood out to me. He probably, how old is he? He's 24, so we probably could put him on a practice squad. Um, we'll see. AJ Thomas, he got an interception yesterday. He's only 23. Safety there for us. Interested to see what happens to him. I thought he did have a fairly solid outing, but he'll probably more than likely. I mean, obviously you're not going to start on a team with Jaquan Brisker and Eddie Jackson right off the bat. You're not going to start, but he's fighting for that backup role there at safety. And I'm going to say this for a lot of the players because it's that point of the year where you're looking at all these players and outside of a small handful, all these guys are really putting on their best performance. I mean, sometimes you have guys that, I mean, they know they need to put on good performances, but they haven't. But a lot of these guys are putting on their best foot forward because they're trying to make a roster spot, and you can tell that they're really busting their tail. And AJ Thomas was one of them. I hope at least he makes our practice squad, but I could see him being. I did enjoy what he brought forth for us yesterday. And I could see him eventually making that backup role to either Eddie Jackson or Jaquan Brisker. So I mean, he's an option there. He'll be in that debate between all those secondary players that are going to be on the bubble there. We'll see if anybody makes the practice squad, if somebody stays on the main roster. I mean, obviously got Williamson, the safety out of Stanford. What else we got back there? We got Elijah Hicks back there. Not really a candidate for safety, but you have Terrell Smith, who I don't think did much. I don't even know if Terrell Smith played because he's not in the box charts, and I don't particularly remember him playing. I do remember though. I forget who it was. It was Isaiah Ford. Isaiah Ford got a catch, and I look up at the big screen and it says number 32, Terrell Smith with the catch, and I sat there the whole time. I was like, who? We don't have a receiver named Terrell Smith. And then I remembered we drafted a defensive back because they showed the picture of him. I was like, oh, it's the defensive back that we drafted. No, he is not. That was not the guy that caught the ball. That was not the guy that caught the ball. Terrell Smith was not the guy. It was Isaiah Ford, but they had some problems with the PA yesterday, first day. But we'll see if I don't think he played even. Travis Bell, he got a sack. So did Jalen Harris, got 1.5 sacks. Jalen Harris, once again, I said it's gonna be hard for these defensive ends to turn them down at the end of the offseason or at the end of the preseason because they put on a show. I would hate to be one of these defensive ends and put on a performance like this and then told we don't have the space for you because that's gonna suck. It's going to be hard to pick between these guys. Jalen Harris, another guy, I believe he's fairly young. The good news with Jalen Harris, though, at least if you're a Bears fan, it might not necessarily be good news for Jalen Harris because I'm sure he wants to play first team football fairly soon. I mean, the goal is always to play first team. But I think the good news for a Bears fan, at least with Jalen Harris, is he should at least be on our practice squad. He's been really good for us, or was really good for us yesterday, and I haven't heard anything bad out of camp from him. So Jalen Harris should be able to figure it out. Travis Bell, another guy that I think is at least guaranteed to be on our practice squad. You drafted him this season. You drafted your third defensive tackle this season. At least depth wise, he'll be a good option. He got half a sack. Shout out to him though. He's one of my favorite players because on draft night I congratulated him. He actually got back to me. So shout out to my boy Travis Bell. Hopefully he does make the team, but he should at least be guaranteed practice squad. I think both him and Jalen Harris are that same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of it they might not want to cut somebody like Terrell because he's a little bit older. I believe Terrell Lewis is a little bit older. How old is he? Oh, he's 24 too. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe they want to put Terrell down there. But I don't think Terrell and I don't think Travis and I don't think those guys that have the league experience and then also having good outings the other day. I don't think you're necessarily going to get away with having them on your practice squad without getting picked up by somebody. But you might be able to get away with it at least for a little while with some of your undrafted guys that have really stood out. So hopefully Jalen Harris does make it. Travis Bell, another guy that I hope makes it, but wouldn't be surprised if he's on the practice squad week 1. Kyler Gordon, like I said, stood out, obviously, playing that nickel corner role. Dominique Robinson did his thing, got a tackle. Elijah Hicks didn't particularly stand out. Somebody that's going to be in that battle there for that backup safety spot. Jalen Jones, somebody that I know has been talked about as on the bubble. I really like him. Hopefully he makes the roster. Jervon Dexter, somebody that we are hoping could be eventually our starting defensive tackle. But like I said, the depth of defensive tackle for us this year is going to be really good. I know Zach Pickens was the guy to stand out yesterday, but I would not be surprised if next week it's a guy like Jervon Dexter. Both we have a lot of defensive tackles that can do a lot of different things. Now we have Jones. Oh, we have Justin Jones. I forgot about that. I didn't even realize he played. T.J. Edwards did play. Kendall Vildor played. Bravion Roy played, and so did Jack Sanborn. But other than that, that's pretty much the recap of it all. But the Bears did their thing. They absolutely did their thing. They went out there. They played some winning football, and they won. You guys will probably see this Monday, to be honest with you, because I do have to film the Arsenal video, and then I have a lot of different stuff going on today that I'm going to be going to a cookout. So I will probably not be able to get this video uploaded today, but you will see it Monday. Typically, these videos will be uploaded on game day, but that's been it for me. Thank you guys for watching. The Bears did a good job. Hopefully we get a little bit more clarification of who will and will not be making the 53-man. But we'll see in a few weeks when the start of the season comes who eventually made the team. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.